Welcome into Rover Sports, and this is a late Saturday night preview show of tomorrow. And, with this job, man, we are always kind of on the job, even late Saturday night. We got Tanner here, Entertainah, the Entertainah Sports. Really, it's Entertainah with AH. If you spell it in, that's how you find him. He joins me right here and right now. How are you, my friend?
It's a pleasure coming on your channel. I want to thank you for having me on. We got a big game tomorrow. I'm actually going to have to be watching the game for myself. I'm going to be at a wedding tomorrow. My friend's getting married on a Sunday. I'm furious. I'm probably going to be breaking up the church as I'm watching the game. But it's a huge game. It's a must-win game. Giants are off to a 1-3 start. We got a very tough opponent. Let's get into it.
I don't think there's anything worse before we get started than having to go to a wedding or having an engagement on a football Sunday. I think that what tops it all is that if you're around like guys or girls that have like a group project in high school where it was a group project and they don't even address football, that kills me, man. That absolutely that's a nightmare for me. The worst. I can't imagine anything worse.
Let's put it this way. He is one of my top 2 or 3 best friends. If he wasn't, I'd be sitting at home watching the Giants tomorrow because I am that into football. I'm upset. I'm going to be missing the game. Well, like I said, I'll be watching on my phone, but it's a big game. I'm nervous about the matchup. Carolina coming off a bye, going there. They haven't lost their last 7 games in Carolina. I'm nervous about this matchup.
They should be outlawed. But is your friend a football fan or your friend football fans?
I have a bunch of friends that are football fans. He is not. I mean, he'll watch sports, but he's not like a diehard sports fan in general.
And he's a friend. He must be a cool guy or just tremendously nice or something. Most of my friends are sports fans, Yeah,
he's just a great guy. I've known him since 7th grade, and I'm excited to see him get married. I just wish he was getting married about 8 o'clock so I could watch the Giant game in its entirety.
Right, or a summer, spring. There's so many other times other than football. But we're talking here with Entertainah. So let's talk about the game tomorrow. Carolina, they go to Carolina. You got Cam Newton, this game on our schedule. Firstly, the team's 1-3. How do you think they're looking going into Carolina? And when you saw this game in Week 5, where did you expect the Giants to be going into the game?
Okay, I'll address your first question first. How do I think this team is looking? This team is looking as bad as they possibly can going into this week. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Everything that could go possibly wrong has gone wrong. Vernon's supposed to come back this week. He's still not playing. What a disgrace that is. He's missed the first 5 weeks. Eli, man, I love Eli. You know that. We both love Eli. Eli's done. I'm not going to say he's done yet, but it's getting damn near close. And if he doesn't produce tomorrow, he's going to see a lot of pressure from the fan base. Beckham, we know what Beckham said, and, we'll get into that in a little bit. But, he didn't help the Giants' cause with the comments that he said. I'm sure that's not going to help the continuity between him and Eli. The offense has been a disgrace. The defense, for the most part, has held up their end of the bargain. They've kept the Giants in football games, especially against the Saints last week. I don't think the 32 points was indicative of how the defense played. I thought they did a pretty good job of holding them to field goals in the red zone, and especially in that first half.
So James Bettcher you really like, and also the point that you brought up there is Olivier Vernon. And I think for his sake, like the most frustrating thing is how could a player be listed as a day-to-day questionable in week 1 of the season, an ankle. So he misses Jacksonville, and then we're like, this is how we're like, okay. Dallas, it's probable, right? If a player's day-to-day, and it's not like a lingering injury like a hamstring. So then in Dallas, when he misses that, we're like, for sure, week 3. I would have liked it if they said he's out 4 weeks.
Yeah. Well, this is
questionable every week, man. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I get that the ankle's important. You need your ankle to be 100% to be able to run side to side of the football field. I get that. But this is killing the Giants. I mean, he's got it. What would you say? He might be their most important player on defense, probably Collins, but he's up there. He's one of the 2 or 3 most important players on defense. And without him, it hurts the defense tremendously, especially against a team like this with a quarterback that can run the football, because you need those linebackers to stay at home. We've seen them get burnt week after week with the RPOs.
So he's making 200 how much million? 20 million probably a year?
I don't think it's that. It's a big contract. I'll tell you that. I don't remember the exact details, but it's at least mid-teens.
It's a huge contract. Now, I like James Betcher too. Like, those blitzes were really creative. I thought the Houston game, to be honest, the defense I didn't think played that well. I thought Houston made some terrible plays in the red zone. They were constantly driving the ball. Like, if I were to pull you on the Houston game, didn't you think the Giants were actually going to lose that game a lot of the game? Like, didn't you think Houston was going to come back and just totally steal the game? I mean, the pass defense wasn't even that good in the Houston game, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what they did in the Houston game. You're absolutely right. They gave up like 400-plus yards through the air. But I knew they were going to struggle against Watson. One, there's no way Apple was actually out that game. There was no way that Webb was going to be able to cover Fuller. So Fuller is dynamic. So you knew they were going to get their yards. But I actually thought the defense did their job. They bent, but they didn't break. They held them to field goals. They didn't give up touchdowns. Ogletree had that huge interception in the end zone. So, yeah, the defense, they didn't play great, but they played good enough to win the football game. The defense is not the problem. And I think Betcher has I love Betcher. I'm telling you that right now. I think he's a tremendous defensive mind. I think he's going to be gone next year because I think a team is going to snatch him up as a head coach. I like Betcher a lot.
I don't know who the secondary coach is, but he should be getting his name in the paper because Eli Apple, the technique's been fantastic with this guy.
The secondary has been a bright spot, and we thought coming into the year that was going to be their weakness.
Yeah.
That couldn't be further from the case. That's been their strength.
I'm proud of Eli Apple. I'll acquaint Eli Apple to this guy. In Philadelphia, Nelson Aguilar was a bust, a terrible player from USC or a first-round, failure of Chip Kelly. He couldn't – remember he dropped all those passes, and you even notice his persona or his reputation was terrible, and the media just crashed down on him. And last year – and then Aguilar turned it around. Landon Collins called out Eli Apple last year. I thought Eli Apple was on his last straw. He was frustrating to kind of watch, even his personality was frustrating. Giants fans, I got to give the guy a huge, round of applause for playing this year the way he's doing right now. So I agree. I think this defense is really something to get excited about tomorrow.
I think the defense is going to get progressively better as the season goes along, as they get more accustomed to this defensive system. Because I really think Betcher is doing a really good job with this defense. You don't know where the blitz is coming from. They've confused a lot of quarterbacks. Each week you see it getting better. And I think I just worry about this team. I really worry about this team. The only way that the key here has to be to stuff the run. If you could stuff the run against this team, you could contain their offense. I mean, because they don't have playmakers on the outside. Everything's underneath with McCaffrey and, the running ability between C-Mac and, of course, Newton. That's what you got to worry about with this team. And they are tremendous at running the football. Make no mistake about it.
Really? I mean, their offensive line's not that good. So the thing that's going to happen specifically in this game, I think they're going to be going a lot of off tackle. I think you're going to see tons of quarterback runs with Cam Newton where he's going to smash it for 3+ yards. And he's that guy, when you talk about running quarterbacks, it's not a great idea to be a runner in the NFL. He's 6'5", so he isn't going to get hurt. He's built like a brick house. He's not a running back, So
he's bigger than the guys tackling him.
But the great news is their offensive line is not very good. Andrew Norwell, they don't have a lot of talent on the offensive line. North Turner has been brilliant this year.
Turner is a tremendous offensive mind.
And we have Shula. They have North Turner. And dude, Carolina fans, right? They were like, thank you for taking Shula off of our hands. Right? How bad was Shula's reputation?
Yeah, I mean, I think we both agree Shermer's the guy that's really making the calls with the Giants. But, yeah, the Giants' offensive line has been a disgrace. But the proof is in the pudding when it comes to Turner. All you got to do is look at Newton's completion percentage. It's way higher than his career average. I think he's at almost 70%, I think. Last I checked, that it was 69% or something.
And who's the one kid that is really their wide receiver?
Funches.
Yeah, Devin Funchess, right. You have Funchess, you maybe have Ed Dixon, or I know Olsen is also out. So it's unbelievable how it's patchwork with the Carolina Panthers putting in these guys. I mean, I know they selected DJ Moore, and Calvin Ridley is clearly beating DJ Moore thus far this year. But Funchess worries me. The passing game worries me. So defensively, what's the number that we need to hold them to? In actuality, what is Carolina going to get to in this game? scoring-wise.
For the Giants to win this football game, they gotta hold them to 17 points. 17 or under for the Giants to win this game, because I don't think the Giants could put up more than 20 against this team. I really don't. And I know that the Panthers defense has been a little suspect. They've given up, I think it was Atlanta put up like 30 on them. But I don't see it. I think this Carolina defense is very good. They're tremendous at stuffing the run. They're going to force Eli to throw the football. And we've seen what that's been like this year. I mean, Eli has to start hitting on deep throws. If he can't hit on deep – if he starts hitting on deep throws, that's going to open up the running game, because then you can't stuff the box. You can't bring everybody up, because everything's little slants and dump downs, and all the teams know that. So that has to be the priority this week when it comes to the passing game. And I know you love that, but specifically this week, you have to start throwing the ball deep, 25, 30, 40 yards down the field. They got to take some shots this week.
Yeah. So I'm going to get some meatier topics with you right now. Welcome into Rover. All right, here we go. So this matchup is I think it's tough, because Carolina's defense, like you said, is tough. We played well against Denver. We have these games where we come up for air every so often. So first of all, I'm not panicking about the game. Like, I'm intrigued. It's backs against the wall time, and I'm going to learn a lot about this team. So let's talk about Eli, and then I'm going to talk about really big picture stuff. A lot of times, Jet Central, our dear friend, he loves Alex Smith. He's really, I'm not going to say obsessed, but he loves the guys that don't turn the football over. He's even a huge Tyrod Taylor fan. He loves the dink and dunk game.
Well, before you go on,
yeah,
if that's what he loves, he should love Eli Manning, because that's what he's been this year. He's been Alex Smith.
Yeah.
He's only thrown one pick, and he's dinking and dunking all over the field. He's got like a 64% completion percentage.
I'm ready for a little reckless Eli. Because Eli Manning, even when he was great when he was younger, was reckless, naive, dumb, in some ways. Like the Tyree play, the greatest play of his career was maybe the dumbest play of his career. So I'm ready to see Eli. I'm bring on the interceptions. Interceptions sometimes aren't the worst thing. Everybody thinks that turnovers are terrible. But you have to sometimes take risks. And let's just throw it up. What do you think about interceptions and unleashing just Eli?
High risk, high reward. If you don't take risks as a quarterback, yeah, okay, you're not going to turn the ball over, but you're going to do what the Giants have been doing. You're going to be mediocre. To be a successful offense, you need a mixture of both. You can't be a team that's always taking risks down the field, but you got to take your shots, and the Giants have not done that. And when you don't take shots, the defense stuffs you. That's what it comes down to. Once in a while, you'll get a big play like they got with Barkley week 1 against Jacksonville. They've gotten a couple of big plays here and there, but the offense has been stagnant because of it. If you don't take shots down the field, you become a predictable offense. And when you're predictable in the NFL, that's the worst thing you could be. The defense can't know what's coming.
What's another problem is that Sterling Shepard is not like a big play receiver. So a lot of times Beckham will be on one side and he will be double teamed. So you're throwing it to so many guys in coverage, but then you're one-on-one. The other side's usually an island with Cody Latimer, and usually he's not breaking off that damn island. He's stuck on that island. So that's kind of your place to take a shot. You know what I mean? With some of these secondary guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they could take shots with Beckham too. I mean, if you go back and look at the film last week specifically, they had Beckham a few times wide open. I'm not going to lie. Beckham had a right to be upset. The way that he demonstrated, I disagree with. Go into the locker room and pull that nonsense. I don't need to see you doing it on the field. But he did have a right to be upset. He was open from time to time. And they needed to take shots. And Eli, if you look at the film, there was at least 3 or 4 instances where he checked it down when he shouldn't have.
Let's talk about Odell Beckham now.
I can't wait. I saw your video. I'll say one thing about your channel, what I respect the hell out of you for. You don't care what your viewers are going to think. You're not politically correct. You say the truth. You say what you truly feel. And as a viewer, you got to respect that, because that's what when you watch this guy's channel, you know it's what he feels. And I respect that. I really do, because I feel like a lot of YouTube creators, they don't have the balls to do that. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate that. And the thing is, when channels grow, and you really – I do care about my audience. I want them to enjoy their experience. A lot of the reason I put in the work is for the people that are watching, this content. But sometimes we're going to disagree, and that's why it's great we're talking about sports. It's not the most important thing. That's why sports are so great. And the fact is, I don't want to change up my content. And for young YouTubers out there, I don't want them to hold bars. I like no holds bars, you know? And that's what YouTube is great. If you listen to local radio, they're tied up. You can't just insult players because you need them for interviews and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what local radio is now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I'm not going to say 100% agree with everything you said about Beckham, but I'm at least 85, 90% on board with you.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you on this. I think this guy's a child. That's what it comes down to. This guy's supposed to be this great wide receiver. He supposedly cleaned up his act in the offseason. He showed up. And I give him a ton of respect for that, okay? Because a lot of players would have held out, and he didn't. So I give him a lot of respect for showing up this year. And I said to myself, this guy's finally growing up. He's not pulling the boat nonsense, this, that, the other thing. And, you know, now he goes right back to it. He's got his money now, and he's going right back to the nonsense. I was not happy with how he conducted himself on the field. And this is even worse what he did, this whole Josina Anderson nonsense.
Well, but in a way it's not worse because we're seeing Odell and the true character, I believe, of Odell.
But that's something that you keep in-house. He has a right, you know, if he feels he has a right to be upset against Eli, you know what? Maybe you do. I'll be the first to say it. Eli's not played well. But that's not something you go out and say. When you say that you can't throw the ball 20 yards, you're disrespecting two people. You're disrespecting Eli Manning and you're disrespecting your coach. And you know what? That's not something you do. You don't just go to the media and run your mouth like that. That's not being a good teammate, okay? Eli Manning would never do that. Michael Strahan would never do that. Saquon Barkley would never do that. The players like this don't belong in the Giants. So he either grows up or we get rid of him. And I hope he grows up because I know he's a tremendous talent and we could use him on the football field. But you know what? It's been a story.
Who's going to tell him to grow up?
Well, that's the other thing I worry about. And I know that I know a lot of Giant YouTubers don't have the balls to say this, okay? Because they know there's a lot of Odell fans, right? Like you said, I feel like there are a lot of people that are just Beckham fans and they're not true Giant fans. They don't want what's best for the team. They want what's best for Beckham. Right. But Giant football has always been and will always be about two things: running the football and stuffing the run. Period. End of story. And if Beckham doesn't like that, that's too bad. You look at the 4 Super Bowls this team has won: 86, 90, 07, and 11. It was built around a tremendous pass rush. Lawrence Taylor, Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyior, Justin Tuck, I go down the list, and they jam the ball down your throat with the run game. That's how this team's successful, and a big reason for that is because of where they play. They play in New York with the conditions, with the wind, everything else. They don't play in sunny Florida. They don't play in sunny California. They don't play in these domes. To be a successful team in New York, you have to be able to pound the rock and stuff the run. And if Odell don't like that, go somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed what you said there. What I'm going to say about Odell Beckham is that I just don't know if this guy is ever going to be a team guy. I don't know if he's wired in that manner. And you said he didn't like Eli Manning. There's one guy that you should go to when you don't like what's going on, and that's Eli Manning. And he's done the complete opposite. He didn't go up to Eli. These two are not in cahoots together. You could talk about the Super Bowl commercial. The point is with Eli is that it's a terrible mix of characters. I actually talked to one of my friends that's a Carolina Panthers fan, and he's like, Odell would be better if he had like a Baker Mayfield or a Cam Newton. Eli is so quiet that Odell, you could call it bullying. That's an extreme term, but Eli's opinions, it's Odell running the ship. And I'm really almost positive that Odell's going to Sterling and Evan Ingram. They live together. And I bet he's saying that this offense is so lame. I don't like the quarterback and head coach. And that's going to spread, you know?
Well, you can't say that, though. You can't put words in the guy's mouth. You don't know what he's saying. I mean, you got to be fair.
Right.
But
he could be talking to them.
He could be. I mean, Eli could be doing the same thing for all we know. But you got to be fair. I mean,
yeah, but dude, the whole interview is divisive. I mean, we could agree on that.
No, he had no reason to do the interview. Period. End of story. You don't do that. And he didn't say Eli's name. He didn't say Shermer's name, but he insinuated it. And you know, and that's disrespectful. You don't do that. You don't do that as a teammate, especially with the New York Giants. There's a class organization. We don't do that. They don't do that.
Okay, I know you don't want – like, I know that trading Odell might seem very extreme, but that's that's kind of what I want. But I'm going to ask you this question: is having Odell on the team kind of stressful? It feels like it's extra. Like, do you often feel that when you're watching this team play? Like that you're almost that there's something that the team.
The thing I don't
like having him on the sideline just feels like weight. It just feels like extra weight when the team.
Let me tell you something. I'll say this: when the team is winning, it all goes away. We all love Odell, right? So that's what it comes down to. If the Giants were winning, none of this would matter. Okay, we'd put up with it, whatever. But the thing with Odell, he is divisive. There's no doubt about it. And he might not always mean to be, right? Because I'll say this about Odell. I'll give him credit for this. I don't think Odell is – I don't think he goes out of his way. I think he's just a very passionate football player, and I think he wants to be great, okay? I do truly believe that, and I think he wants to win. But there's ways of going about it, and the way that he goes about it, I don't agree with. I really don't. And I still recognize he's still young. He's still a young puppy. I hope he grows up. But I don't like what I've seen out of him this year. He hasn't shown me anything. He has not grown up this year.
So the thing is with Beckham is that, well, my theory is very extreme, that he's the root of the problems, or the root of the locker room. The real test is, you said Odell just wants to win, but I want to see if the Giants win ugly, like we want them to play. I want to see if Odell is happy if he's not getting his Hall of Fame numbers. If this team wins games 13-7, I want to see how happy he is.
Well, if he's not happy with winning, because the way this team is built right now, that's the best way for this team to win, is to win by pounding the rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that they need to take deep shots. I always say that because that'll help the running game. But for this team to win, Saquon Barkley, when you got an aging quarterback like Eli Manning, you got an offensive line, and I know the offensive line has played a little bit better, as the season has gone along. But when you have the weaknesses that the Giants have on offense, you have to go to your strength, and your strength is Saquon Barkley. They drafted this guy for a reason, okay? We took this guy number 2 overall over some guys that are supposed to be franchise quarterbacks. So we got to use him. We got to give him 25, 30 carries. We have not done that yet. And last week, 2 weeks ago, I think he only had 4 carries in the first half. Last week he had 5. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They got to give this guy the ball.
How patient are you going to be with Odell Beckham? Meaning, like, right now you're frustrated with Odell, but what's going to cause you to go from I'm putting up with Odell and not liking him to what would ever cause you to think that this guy would be better, or that the team would be better if he were not on the team?
Yeah, that's one thing I wouldn't say. I would not get rid of him. I mean, at this point, you can't.
What would cause you to give that opinion? Would it be years?
I'll say this. If the Giants go out there and they draft a Herbert, or whoever it's going to be, Locke, whoever this Loletta maybe, whoever it is, whoever's going to be the heir apparent to Eli, if he becomes a cancer to that quarterback, then I say pack your bags. End of story. Because you can't have a guy like this we saw when Eli was coming up. When you had Tiki and when you had Shockey, the second they got rid of him, his career took off. You cannot have guys like this. I don't care how talented they are. We replaced Jeremy Shockey with Kevin Boss. We replaced Tiki Barber with Ahmad Bradshaw, okay? And Brandon Jacobs is a young guy. You're talking about 2 Hall of Fame talents we replaced with guys who were supposed to be mediocre football players, but the team played better, because you cannot have a young, aspiring quarterback and have a guy like Odell Beckham the way that he's been. So if Odell Beckham doesn't change his ways when we bring in the guy to replace Eli, and I hope he does, because I do truly want him to be on this team, because I truly believe they're a better football team with him on the team, as long as he doesn't do the things he's been doing. But if he's going to continue to act this way with a young quarterback, that's when I would look to get rid of him.
You look at Odell Beckham, right? And sometimes the way it can be frustrating is that he probably in practice is running so fast and these routes are so precise. It's almost like he's a pilot, like in the Army, or he's a pilot, and he could fly planes at 200 miles per hour. He is an excellent, like, Top Gun pilot, but literally there's no plane. He can't fly it at all. That's what's so frustrating. It's very hard for me to say this kind of to Odell. It's like, when he's practicing, it's almost becoming pointless right now with the line and the quarterback play. That's how it could be maybe so frustrating for this guy.
No, I understand his
You know
frustration.
what I mean? It's like he could be running the best routes of all time, and then he's not getting any reward. So it is a tough situation to be in that regard.
I completely understand his frustration. Okay, he has every right to be frustrated. I mean, this guy, he's probably the most talented receiver on the planet. I mean, if he's not, he's top 2 or 3. So yes, of course, Eli is not doing his job. He's not getting him the ball, but there's a way to go about it, and he is not going about it the right way.
Exactly, and that's kind of why I want the receivers on the Giants, if I could pick the team, to be completely second tier and not really have expectations. So they're just studying the game plan, kind of playing the game. If they get the ball, great. If they don't, then it's not the end of the world. And then defensively, the guys that we've drafted, I would love to see guys that love playing for the New York Giants. Like, I would love to see guys that have pride, that really hate the Eagles in Dallas. Wouldn't that be fun to get? Because Michael Strahan and some of the guys like Tuck, a lot of the old school guys hated the opponents. I want that too in the draft class as well. I look at passionate college players, and I just get excited for what the team can be if we draft guys that really love being New York Giants players.
It still exists, but unfortunately, it's not the way it used to be. There's not, and it's all sports. It's basketball. It's all sports. I mean, you look at I remember Amari. I'm a big Knicks fan, as you know. I remember during the playoffs, the Knicks get swept, or I think they lose at 5 to the Heat. Amari Stoudemire's at the next playoff series cheering the Heat on. Stuff like that. You didn't used to see that in the old days, and it's the same way in football. You see all these guys exchanging jerseys after the game. Yeah. It's just not the way it used to be. The hatred, your rivals. It's just not the way it used to be, and I miss that. I really do. I agree with you on that. Yeah. And that's one thing I loved about Tuck. Tuck was such a true Giant. That's all. He was so proud to be a Giant.
I agree. Antonio Pierce strikes me as a guy who's proud to be a Giant. Chase Blackburn would come in for being a substitute teacher to help us be a Giant. Amadi Toomer's a professional, but I'm trying to think of the defensive players of our, because the cornerbacks were always kind of patchwork, but the defensive line of Umenyiora, he came back to be a Giant. And that's what makes you love sports. And with this team right now, I don't want to single out Odell, but there's characters on the team. And I just think it's tough to really be proud to be a Giant when you see the sideline body language that we had last week.
There's no doubt about it. This team is not. They're not gelling.
They're not growing together.
But you know what? Winning cures a lot of things. I mean, and losing causes a lot of things. So if they could ever win a couple of games, it might change. You know what I'm saying? When you're losing, everyone's bummed out. Everyone's down in the dumps. Right. So if they go out and they win on Sunday and then they beat the Eagles, everybody might be kumbaya, so. And
for Eli, you don't have to feed Beckham. And for Stale Pat, just call the plays that are going to win, right? Let's talk about Stale Pat. So Stale Pat, if he wins, man, right? Because when did you start embracing that this was going to be such an ugly offense? When did
I'll tell you. I always tell you this every time. And I do call him Stale Pat because he's been stale. But
he is stale. His press conferences, you barely see his eyeballs.
But I'll tell you this. I was actually thrilled when they brought him in because I really thought, and I'm still not giving up on him. I still think he can be a very successful offensive mind for this team because I saw what he did. I saw what he did in the past with quarterbacks. Nick Foles had a career. He had the second best QB rating in the history of football. Now, of course, a lot of that credit has to go to Chip Kelly with his system, everything else.
It worked.
You saw it last year with Keenum, and you saw it with Bradford. All these guys had career years when he was their offensive coordinator. So I really thought he was going to bring that to Eli. And maybe it's not Shermer's fault. It might be mostly Eli's. I don't know. We won't know that until we see the letter.
The fact that's good is at least we're running it on third and short. And I haven't got into this yet, but you can't be the boy who cries wolf. You know what I mean by that? Because last year I was desperate for fire Ben McAdoo, please, whatever it takes. So I can't just be trigger happy and want to fire all these coaches and boy who cries wolf all our lives.
You know what I'll say about Ben McAdoo? And it's the same thing with Sherman now.
Boy who cries wolf. Yeah, but go ahead about McAdoo.
The thing I couldn't stand about McAdoo, of course, the whole thing he did to Eli. If you're going to bench him, you have to bench him for Webb. Once you did the Geno Smith, that was a disgrace. But the thing that really upset me with McAdoo, he did not have control of that locker room. He really didn't. He didn't. I mean, Odell Beckham, and again, I don't want to sound like an Odell Beckham hater, but, he had his antics, and McAdoo never stood up to him. And Shermer's, we'll see what he does with this whole thing that he did with Josina Anderson, but it doesn't look like he's going to do anything either. Somebody's got to stand up to this guy because that's how he learns. That's how you get him in his place. Coughlin wouldn't stand for this. And that's what they need.
Eli might have to go at him, but I think it's Pat Shurmur that really needs to do it.
Pat Shurmur's the guy that needs to do it. And
then if Odell spouts, then you have your stories,
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, Eli Manning is not playing up to par. Everybody on the team has a right to be upset about it. But there's a way to go about it, and Beckham didn't do it. Beckham did not do it the right way, and Shurmur's got to say something to him.
Well, the thing that's so difficult is the fact that you have Beckham. They want the Civil War. That's what sells. Like this Josina Anderson interview for ESPN is gold. I mean, we're eating it up. We're talking about it. But if you didn't have Odell Beckham, it's less responsibility on Eli because, Odell, if Sterling Shepard was in the lineup right now, nobody would be down Eli's, throat all the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's a double-edged sword kind of in that capacity. But the way I'd want it is let's get Eli better. Let's accompany our quarterback right now.
I agree with you. And if you look back at history, wide receivers like Odell Beckham do not win championships. It's the truth. I mean, you look back at I know Randy Moss was on that undefeated team, but he didn't win a title. Guys like that, they me-first players do not win championships. You need players to buy in as a team. And maybe he will one day. But right now, he is not that type of player.
Chris, I wanted to ask you two more questions. Thanks so much. We maybe are going over time, but this has been a really great conversation.
I could talk to you for 5 hours. I don't care.
I appreciate that. I look around the league right now at Mitchell Trubisky, at quarterbacks that are putting up big numbers. And the fact is some of them don't even have the strongest of arms. And I was thinking that maybe Eli Manning, in another system outside of New York, can maybe elongate his career somewhere else. Do you think Eli could play at a decently high level, next year or the year after? Or then would you want Eli to be a mentor going forward for his, future?
I love Eli Manning, okay? I think he's done. I'm going to tell you why. He's not the guy.
He could be a backup after this year.
Yeah, but he's not the guy he used to be. For him to be successful, and Bart Scott said it in the media too. I think he said he's not willing to take a concussion. That was a little over the top. He probably shouldn't be saying that, but he's right. Eli Manning, you don't see it anymore. He's not willing to stand in the pocket and take that hit. And for a guy like him to be successful, he has to do that. And you know what? Maybe, he's 38 years old. He probably doesn't want to get a concussion. I can't really blame the guy. But if that's the case, if you're not a mobile quarterback, you have to be willing to take those hits, and he's not. So I personally – and I hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes out there and he proves us all wrong. I hope he rides off to the sunset. He wins us a Super Bowl this year. But, rational thinking, if you're being completely unbiased and you're taking your hat off, Eli Manning, he's not performing up to par, and I think he's done. And I hate to say that.
That's a brilliant point because I'm even excited for Eli to be able to spend time with his family. It's a weird thing. I love watching the guy play. At the same time, I don't want him, I really like his personality and I want him to have a great life after football. And you make great points. It is great having a veteran presence in there also, but for Eli, he can't move. So you're absolutely right. He has to be a guy that's willing to hang in there and take hits, and he always was that when he was younger. So what's your score prediction tomorrow?
In my video, I said 27-17. That's when I thought that Vernon would be playing. Now I'm going to say 30-17. 30-17 Carolina.
I'm going to surprise you. 23-17 Giants.
You really think that, or are you just saying that for the video?
I think the Giants play really well tomorrow. I don't think Carolina's offense is going to scare us that badly. I think we're going to come out. We're going to guard everything that they have, and Saquon's going to be able to run it I really think we're going to be able to run the ball tomorrow. We're going to be physical.
I will say this.
I felt that way. But the thing is, if we get blown out, we could get blown out, and it'll be very telling because sometimes if this Beckham video comes out and the team's not on the same page and the chemistry's terrible, that's when games like the Rams game last year happen.
I will say this. If Barkley can pound the rock tomorrow, the Giants will probably win this football game. I'm just of the belief that he's not going to be able to do that. But if they can, if he rushes for 100, 120, 130 yards, I think they will win this football game because I don't think Carolina, like you said, has these tremendous weapons. I just personally think they're going to turn the ball over the Giants because they're going to force Eli to pass. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope Barkley runs all over the football field.
It could be one of the worst weeks ever as a Giants fan because then in 3 days we got to do some work on our channels quickly because we flip right back around the Eagles coming into the house.
If they could ever, that's all I want. That's all I want. If you could get to that Eagles game at 2-3, then we got the thrill of a lifetime because then you're right back in it. If you beat the Eagles, and I think they can, I'll tell you that right now. I don't think the Eagles are that good this year. I said that from the beginning of the year, and I'm sticking to it. I don't think they're a great football team, and I think the Giants have a good shot to beat them. If they lose this week, I'm not going to think that because I think if you look at the Giants' track record, they quit. And if they get to 1-4, I'd be scared that they're going to quit on the season.
Exactly. 2-3, the crowd is juiced Thursday night. So it's important. It's important.
Yeah, if they can win this game, and then you got the Eagles coming there, I think the Giants got a good shot to get to 3-3, but I'm worried about tomorrow.
Tanner, thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your football Sunday, my friend. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for thanking me, and thank you for having me on your channel.